And welcome to the Every Other Monday show, the show where we bring you the latest in gaming and tech news. Like the title says, every other Monday. I'm BaldSquid, joined by Zenadra.
Hey, everyone.
In this episode, GamePass comes to Quest. Halo goes UE5 and comes to PlayStation. Xbox and PSN outages come at the perfect time, considering the digital ownership debates. And some releases knock it out of the park, while others trip before they ever get to the starting line.
Yeah, it's been an interesting mixed bag of releases over the last couple of weeks. Some things I've been really looking forward to that didn't seem to land particularly well. And then a few things that I was not expecting a lot from have taken up far more of my time than I realized. So yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been busy the past couple of weeks. Like I have things I need to catch up on. So why don't we kick it off like usual with things that we've been playing lately. This week, why don't you start us off, Zen?
Yeah, sure. So outside of the usual Space Marine 2, Path of Exile, I've recently picked up the Mortal Shell 2 demo. Now that it came to PlayStation, absolutely hammered that. I've got several playthroughs. I went through that first unwinnable fight 3 times. I did it.
Hell yeah.
It is winnable. You don't really get anything for it, but it is a demo. Blades of Fire, been doing quite a bit of that. I like Blades of Fire. Blades of Fire does not like me, and that's largely because of my own incompetence. The game has a lot of directional combat, so all your 4 face buttons on PlayStation are attacking moves, and I keep pressing circle to dodge. It's not the game's fault. It's entirely my fault.
That's because circle is the dodge button.
Circle is the dodge button. But it's kind of like the first God of War remake set in the Fable universe, like those kind of ideas mashed together. It's not bad. What else have I been playing? A bit more Final Fantasy. I've been playing a bit of Replaced. If anyone's heard of that, it's been a while since that came out on GamePass. Little side scroller, pretty cool. I think that's largely it in terms of big games I've sort of covered recently.
It's been a light week on my end, at least, just because I have been away at Gen Con the past 4 days. I got back last night. Still waiting to see if Con Crud decides to rear its ugly head. But I've been, of course, Space Marine 2 on stream, a little bit of Battlefield on my own time. The thing that surprised me was Mistfall Hunter, because I downloaded that and was actually able to play with negligible issue, like remoting into my home PC from several states away over Moonlight. And normally I don't like extraction shooters or extraction titles at all. This one kind of has its hooks in me, even as a solo player. I'll have a video out probably Wednesday this week on it, talking about my thoughts. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. With being a big Arc Raiders fan, Mistfall equally seems quite exciting to me as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things that it doesn't do super well, but for the price, I feel like what you get is really solid.
I believe it's day 1 Game Pass as well.
I believe so, yeah.
Definitely try that.
All right, so how about we move on to headlines and news, shall we?
Sounds good.
So first off, Meta and Xbox have expanded the Game Pass cloud to Horizon Plus. So they formally deployed a 50-game starter catalog of Xbox Game Pass titles directly into Meta VR headsets. Think the Quests. The service allows people to project a massive virtual flat screen inside a 3D VR workspace to stream cloud titles. I mean, this sounds cool in theory, but while marketed as a bit of a living room replacement, there's some issues with the compound latency stack because the Quest headsets, like even the new one, has some issues with streaming over your local network, as well as the render pipeline for VR. And if you add in on top of all that, the nature of cloud gaming, it's kind of death by 1,000 cuts. Now, decoding an asynchronous 60 FPS cloud stream inside a mobile-based VR system, going to have a great time if you're playing super fast-paced Twitch shooters.
No, I've actually got some recent experience of this because I actually tried to play Space Marine on my Quest. And setup-wise, Loved it. Sat on my couch, huge screen in front of me, Bluetoothed my Xbox controller to my headset. And for those who've played Space Marine, it's like playing the entire game with a balanced weapon, even though you have a fencing weapon. So it was I mean, obviously, I'm not entirely sure how well it was running over my Wi-Fi network, but yeah, the premise was great, but the input lag was very noticeable.
I mean, I can definitely see it for not Twitch games working well, but I don't know. There's other solutions that exist already for the Quest if you want to play fast-paced titles over your own network. You can do that thing where you have a second router with a dedicated Wi-Fi just for the Quest, and then you can play with like negligible latency. But I understand where they're going with this, and for the people who don't really care over much about like frame perfect pacing or input lag, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean it's a nice addition, like for the Game Pass to be pushing out. Xbox want to get more out of their Game Pass, so it's good that it covers other platforms that people might have compared to other things. So
yeah,
it's a good idea.
So, considering everything that's been in the news for the past month at this point about PSN doing digital only, this past week has been, I'm going to go with amusing, considering the Xbox and PSN outages.
Yeah. Having suffered from both sides of that, it was incredibly frustrating trying to play anything. Like PSN went down, then almost like in a domino effect, Xbox went live after that. We saw, I know Silent was suffering from it quite a bit when he was talking about it on one of the streams. Two different reasons they did say. I'm not entirely sure if PlayStation have come out yet as to what the outage was for. I mean, it took them a very long time to even acknowledge it was down. Like you went onto their PlayStation site and everything was, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. It's like,
actually not fine.
See, a number of I did take to X just to double check in case that was maybe more up to date than their website. And whilst X did say, no, everything's fine, the comments.
Did you need to take a shower afterwards after going on X?
It did kind of feel like I was rolling through a Reddit feed at some points based on what some people were saying. But yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah, the timing is perfect, honestly. As not only do we now have a situation where companies, specifically Sony in this case, can say, well, actually, you don't own anything, go fuck yourself. We now sometimes don't have access to the things we purchased because, again, their court, their ball, their rules, you can go home.
Yeah, I did see one of the things they were trying to add to PlayStation Plus. If you bought the higher level subscriptions, one of their marketing things was here's access to Sony movies, which actually very recently was part of the reason why people didn't like what they were doing because loads of movies just disappeared from the platform. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's not like it's not even shooting yourself in the foot at this point, is it? It's
like all you had to do was nothing, Sony. All you had to do was nothing.
Yeah, they could just sit down, be quiet, enjoy the lack of PR. Probably would have been fine for them.
You wait while Xbox sets itself on fire and Nintendo continues to not discount things like 15 years later.
I know, I keep saying to myself some of the Zelda games I really want to pick up, but I keep going, I'll wait for a sale. I'm sure I'll be dead before that goes on sale.
Okay, so headlines are actually pretty light this past week. Shall we move on to main story? Because I think Halo is really the elephant in the room here.
Yeah, let's go for the elephant.
So July 28th, Halo, the campaign Evolved, launched natively on PS5. And 25 years of console wars later. I imagine Master Chief running on a DualSense is a bit jarring for some.
Did you see all those things online where they all say it's like hashtag not my something? I very much expected to see pictures of Master Chief with a PS5 controller like hashtag not my Chief or not my Spartan or something like that, just trending. And I mean, it's about time, to be fair. I mean, Xbox, we saw, have been releasing a couple of their exclusives on PlayStation. Obviously, now that has somewhat been reversed. But I know, I mean, I did want the Master Chief Collection to come to PlayStation for a very long time. So this is like an interesting entry point into that. And in their credit, it wasn't a £70 release platform. It was only 50, at least in the UK. The premium upgrade was an additional £20 for a few skins, which did sort of make me crawl. But
skins are skins. Like, I'm on record, broken record at this point about not really caring about cosmetics in my games. So
the cosmetics were fine. What got me about the premium upgrade was that it came with a digital user manual.
A digital? So you're basically paying an extra $20 for some skins and a PDF.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how interactive that PDF might be, but that was certainly one that got me.
So with the Halo release, like, I was actually kind of surprised. Like, I haven't had time to play it yet. It's on my agenda. Steam reviews are lower than I would expect. You know, maybe some of that is, the transition to UE5 from the original Blam engine. UE5 is pretty. We all know that. Lumen, highly detailed geometry, blah, 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 right? However, with the shift in engine, I imagine and have seen in some of the Steam reviews that there's a subtle shift in physics. And, people who have been playing Halo for, 25-ish years now at this point, they're going to notice when suddenly Master Chief is a little bit less floaty in the air.
Yeah, I mean, those kind of like the ragdoll physics and the high jumps, all that sort of stuff was very quintessential Halo. I've seen a few reviews, no experience with this myself, that the weapon changes haven't been particularly well received. Like 343 have changed a few of the weapons in terms of their functions. No evidence of that myself because I haven't played it yet, but I've seen a few people, and just this morning actually at work, a few people were mentioning that as well, that the weapons feel a little bit off.
Okay. Movement physics I can tolerate, but if you change the spread on some weapons or recoil patterns, that's going to make me cranky because, again, that's going to upset 25 years of muscle memory.
Yeah. I'll be interested to try it out myself. I'm not going to be trying it on PlayStation, despite the fact I would like to, but a free Games Pass version is just far too tempting.
Hey, and free is the best flavor, if we're honest.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'm excited to try it. I already have it installed. I just haven't had time to play it yet. Maybe in between streams this week, I'll get some time with it. But I'm going to delay judgment on the updates just because it could be really cool, even if it's not a one-to-one remake of the original. On the other hand, it might enter this weird uncanny valley of it's not really something new, but it's not what we know and love already, and it just kind of fails to carve out its own identity.
I did see, you'll be able to make better use of this than I will. Someone has already found the split screen code in the game, and there are mods for it already. So
really?
You can couch co-op split screen. Yeah.
That might have to happen with Mrs. Squid.
I thought you'd find that more interesting than that. Be stuck on either Xbox or on this, but yeah, I've seen that already. The split screen is a thing.
Nice. Relive early date nights.
Yeah.
All right. Should we move on to notable recent releases and stuff that's upcoming?
Sure.
All right. So we already covered Halo, which, again, elephant in the room, really. Kusan City of Wolves. This one I wasn't on my radar at all, but some recent reviews make me think that this needs to get added to the list, if only to play personally, if not for the channel. So my understanding of it, looking at a little bit of coverage, is, this is on PC, PS5, Xbox, Switch. It's almost like a Hotline Miami top-down, one-hit lethality curve shooter puzzle thingy. So it's set in this rain-soaked pixel art metropolis. You control an ex-soldier with a prosthetic war hand, and you'll slog and carnage your way through 54 handcrafted stages to protect somebody harboring a city-grade atomic weapon deleter. So, I mean, there's stakes, I suppose.
I mean, to be fair, the idea of playing through a game where one of your weapons is just called a war hand, that's a pretty good selling point anyway. And after I did see it, see that you mentioned it, I did go and watch some trailers and some gameplay for it, and it does look quite fun, to be fair. It's very, very vibrant. I was watching someone sort of chain through a few different rooms, and very fast paced. The art style definitely leads itself to that. The little animated cutscenes in between. It looks like a surprising hit so far.
Yeah, looking at the trailers, it seems like the combination of like dodge cancels, parries, and like the mouse aim ricochet, whatnot, combined with the pacing, seems like it has a really nice opportunity just to hit that flow state, like you did in the old Hotline Miami or like Super Hot or titles like that. And evidently, the custom engine locks to like 240 plus FPS even on mid-tier hardware, which, I mean, sure, it's pixel art, but this is 2026 and I've seen pixel art games perform poorly in the past year, so it bears mention.
Yeah, again, it doesn't need to be like the most vivid 3D atmosphere in the world to have a really good art style and locked in frame pacing, especially one where the chaining is quite important. So getting that 0 frame variance is probably going to be pretty key to a lot of people in their runs.
Then on July 29th, we had Mistfall Hunter. Technically the 30th. It just released on the 29th for everybody who's minus GMT. So this one is a third-person dark fantasy extraction action RPG. Dear God, that's a mouthful. This one's on PC, Xbox Series, and Game Pass. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this one surprised me. Initially, I was going into it thinking, okay, this is going to be a clunky, stuttery mess, right? Because UE5. The controls have weight. It is purely manual aiming all around. Like your animations have specific like lunge distances. So it's more about positioning and like cooldown management because you can stance swap between two weapons and your cooldowns are tracked independently between those two weapons. The extraction loop thus far, I'm about in the mid game, is fair. Gear fear is not really a thing just because, if you're extracting even 2/3 of the time, you're getting plenty of currency. And once you unlock it, you can use the player-driven auction house to just like click, 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 and get back to greens or blues comparatively inexpensively, at least for now. We'll see how the player-driven economy winds up panning out as the game progresses, but it's good. There are still traversal stutters in between zones because UE5 is going to UE5. But there have been some hot fixes since launch where the micro stutters that would happen due to PSO caching in combat. The thing that stands out the most to me is the time that I got nuked by a sorcerer. I hadn't seen any sorcerer spells yet, so my machine had to stutter to make the shaders happen in real time. And by the time it finished stuttering, I was dead. So that sucked. But patches since then have really sort of evened that out, and you don't experience that quite as much anymore.
That's pretty cool. I mean, the idea of these sort of like the more different genres that are coming to the extraction shooters, having one more around like a fantasy element definitely should appeal to a lot more people. It certainly appealed to me. How does the sort of actual like PvP versus PvE kind of work? I'm assuming you can still third-party people, but is like the PvE interesting enough for someone who's not too PvP focused?
The crunchies are kind of dull. Elites get a little bit more spicy. The equivalent of raid bosses on the maps are basically Dark Souls bosses. They're multi-phase fights, and they will make you work for it. As for like the PvP side, I've got like 14 hours in the game at the moment, and I haven't encountered anybody who's friendly. So that should sort of tell you what you're getting into there. Granted, I have been playing mostly Rogue because will it Rogue? The Rogue in this game is the Shadow Strix. So like I get to dictate my engagement like 90% of the time because of stealth. You don't get like permanent stealth, but you get a pretty long effect stealth on effectively a 30-second cooldown. So like I'm the guy third partying, if I'm honest.
I'd be the poor guy with a sword and board just wondering what happened to him.
Oh, dude, sword and board is surprisingly like tanky and viable in this one.
Good. That's usually my go. Any RPG sort of style game, I will always sword and board it. As boring as it is, I like to just do one playthrough or one run, if you like, sword and board, till I get used to the game, and then I might venture out into something a little bit more interesting.
You might check out the, I think it's called the Withered Knight. You get either a greatsword or a polearm and shield, and you can swap between those two.
Cool.
On the other end of the surprising release spectrum, we have Relic, the First Guardian, at launch July 31st by Project Cloud Games. It was a dark fantasy action RPG that came to PC, PS5, and Xbox after 6 years of development. Now, this was supposed to have an innovative stamina system where stamina is reserved just for defense, leaving offensive skills with 0 resource costs. They were aiming for a quotey fingers, fluid, aggressive combat flow. There were over 70 relics and 5 weapon types across 12 skill trees, and there purportedly 80 lore-heavy boss encounters. I was excited for this one. Gen Con saved me whatever the purchase price is, because I was unable to pick that up, and then I saw some of the early reviews, and well, I'm glad I didn't buy it.
Yeah, I actually hadn't heard of this game until I think you'd mentioned it a couple of shows prior. Actually, there was something you were looking at, and I was like instantly on Google. I was watching some of the trailers for it, and I was like, yes, I think you said this looked like what Crimson Desert Combat wanted to be. And like, that was a pretty big hook for me. Yes, amazing. And then it just tripped the last hurdle.
The last hurdle? It didn't make it to the first hurdle.
It released as a 1.0. I count that as the first hurdle.
Okay.
Rather than early access. But yeah.
The undisclosed AI use until after it released. In an action-forward action RPG, there isn't a jump button.
Yeah, they obviously thought, Souls got away with it for so long, so maybe it's okay. But like you say, an action title?
Yeah, without just continuing to bag on it, this one, save your money. If you want to see more details and see if maybe it would be up your alley, go check out the Steam reviews, both the positive and the negative. And coming tomorrow, as of us recording, Beast of Reincarnation on August 4th. So this one comes to us from Game Freak, which would be the first non-Pokemon game the studio has made in ever? ? Or at least quite some time.
Yeah, I think technically the last game that I'm aware of that they did was in 2017. It was like a bigger something. A lot of them were more like smaller projects. I don't know if they count as like mainstream games. Maybe this is like the first non-Pokemon mainstream game they've ever done. I'm quite excited for this one. I was slightly less excited after watching some of the gameplay, because the whole premise of it is you're actually traveling around in a sort of like post-apocalyptic Japan. It's got quite a high emphasis on sword play and like a parry mechanic. And then you have your canine companion, Ku, who sort of seems to like immersion break with like a tactical command sort of menu to jump in. I don't know, the Ku bit kind of looks a little bit like immersion breaking if you're like in the middle of a pretty big, like extensive fight to then suddenly stop and go through a character command list. I don't know, maybe the implementation is far better than I'm maybe playing it down as, but overall the trailers for it and the concepts have been pretty highly anticipated from most people I've talked to.
Well, and the recent Final Fantasy games have done something similar with real-time combat, and then you can also drop into a menu to have your companions do specific skills, and it works there.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. I mean, I've already said it's a pre-install on my Series X, so I don't know if I'll be up at midnight to play it, but I'll definitely be up.
I wasn't sure about this one, but since looking at it a little bit more while sitting in an airport at a delayed flight, I think I'm definitely going to be playing this one when it releases. Now, whether that's on stream or not, we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm not even sure what the release time is. I say I'm going to be up at midnight to play it. I bet it releases in the UK at like 6 p.m, so it'd be a complete waste of time. I'll check that later.
All right. How about we wrap things up with rumors, leaks, and baseless rampant speculation?
My favorite. Go for it.
So we have the Gears of War E-Day open beta. I think it's this coming week. Leaked internal test logs are pointing towards October 6th, officially. They'd already announced that, but to see it in the code and documentation, that tells us that it's hard and fast.
Yeah, less likely to get a slight pushback. I don't think they could really push it much past October because everyone's going to creep into the GTA window of death that no one wants to release in.
I know a couple people in the stream community here are really excited for it. I know Silent's going to be no-lifing the beta. I'll play through the single player in co-op with Mrs. Squid, or maybe we'll do a co-op run on stream with some people. But as I've said before, I kind of still have PTSD from the rolling around a corner with shotguns from the first Gears of War multiplayer. So I'm going to be skipping the open beta, but I understand that some people are super stoked for it. We'll see how the transition into UE5 goes. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what they do. They did some good things with the UE4 remasters, so they should know what they're doing.
One would hope. Maybe, ideally, they're using UE 5.6, but depending upon how long it's been in development, that may or may not be particularly feasible.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then we have the Oblivion remaster potentially coming to Switch 2. Some back-end indexing logs of European retailers briefly flagged an August 11th target launch for a dedicated Switch 2 physical and digital release of the Oblivion remaster. So Bethesda is continuing their sell the same thing 8,000 times on 8,000 different platforms.
I weirdly wonder if the Switch 2 will actually work quite well in Bethesda's favor, because a lot of people love Bethesda games for the jank. You know, you come for the world, you stay for the jank. To then try and fit that into a less hardware-powered Square, it might bring some more jank that will suddenly become the memes of the future. So could be well for them.
I mean, especially considering the dual engine thing they've got going on, because it's basically the original engine with a UE5 skin on top of it. You put that on something that's significantly less powerful, you might introduce more errors that don't necessarily crash the game, but provide you opportunity for even more, let's say, creative use of gameplay mechanics.
Yes, let's not forget, if they've got the Switch 2's mouse support, then, you know, I'm sure that'll be fine. Absolutely fine.
Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. Move along.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some updates with DLSS 4.5, specifically multi-frame gen latency. The leaked internal driver patch notes for RTX 50 series cards that can do the multi-frame gen, which unfortunately are still locked to specific multipliers, so they can go from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 as needed, instead of a dynamic multi-frame gen where you set a specific FPS target and it does like 1.34 frame gen. It's something I've been salty about since they announced it, but whatever. NVIDIA, which is like NVIDIA, but with terrible pronunciation, is allegedly testing a driver-level display overlay that will let you know when the multi-frame gen creates more than 15 milliseconds of synthetic input lag. Now, as somebody who chases the minimal amount of input latency for Twitch games, like I got Battlefield down to, I think it was 4.5 milliseconds total, end to end. I can appreciate this. I'm still unlikely to use frame gen in most Twitch shooters or like even Space Marine just because of the latency it adds. But I do think this poses an interesting opportunity for NVIDIA to actually show data to the people who are just like, no, frame gen bad, blah, 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 blah. And be like, well, actually, it's still introducing less than 15 milliseconds of input latency. So unless you're Shroud, maybe be quiet and enjoy higher frame rates.
At least more data to the user is always a good thing, because you can make more informed decisions as to whether or not it's actually doing it. Like you say, maybe you'll stop blaming the frame gen for something and start finding something else on your system to blame instead. But, you know, the more stuff you're putting in the user's hands, I think is always a positive step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, you know, they'll likely just find something else instead of recognizing skill issue.
Yep.
And then wrapping things up here, you had something interesting about Clair Obscur.
So they had there was a recent interview with Sandfall where they said they were exploring the possibility of doing a Switch 2 port. They said they were going to have a few challenges because the Switch 2 is obviously not as powerful as consoles, etc. But they have said it is potentially achievable. So if something like Clair Obscur can come to Switch 2, at a reasonable, I can't imagine you should hope for anything more than 30 FPS, but at least if it's locked 30 FPS. Again, that's more along the lines of some of the recent additions from Square, where they're trying to put more of their RPGs onto the Switch and promote that this hardware can actually do some work. So I'd like to see if this does work, what else starts pushing towards the Switch 2 to try and really see what the hardware can do. And I love Clair Obscura. I think I own it on every platform it's available. So I'll probably add this to my list as well if it does come out.
Is it becoming your new Skyrim?
I mean, it might be. It might be.
Thinking back to some of those boss fights, though, like I don't know that I would want to do them in 30 FPS. What with the parry timing?
That's going to be the biggest thing, like something like the Duelista, and especially some of the ones in the new Verso Drafts DLC. Yeah, you're going to need to be on point with those parries, and if you are locked 30 FPS and it stutters even slightly, you're going to get salty.
Yeah, because you're looking at a 33 millisecond frame time there. And as I recall, the parry timing on that was like a quarter of a second. So you're needing to be like frame perfect, literally.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, good luck to them if they figure it out.
Yeah. Maybe they tweak the parry windows just a little bit so you get 2 frames instead of 1.
Maybe.
All right. And that covers everything in the show notes. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up here?
Nothing for me.
I'm BaldSquid, thanking you for hanging out with us a little bit this every other Monday.
I've been Zanadra. I look forward to the next one.
We'll catch y'all every other Monday.